Alright, hello. Back at this again, of course. So, I was thinking a little bit about what I would want this video to be about and about sort of what it is that has been on my mind, because I had initially intended to make, quite a few videos about a month ago, and, things came up, obviously had to put that on the back burner. And I had a few things that at the time, as I was sort of thinking about making videos, as I had sort of experiences and moments that sort of would come to me and I'd have thoughts that I'd write down. I had quite a few thoughts and quite a few subjects and topics I want to talk about, but over the last month I kind of really didn't put any focus or emphasis into that at all. And so, like this morning when I was thinking about what it is I want to talk about in this video today, it sort of was quite challenging for me to figure out. Like, I just was not in the right headspace. But so I ended up going through my notes that I had made before, and there's sort of one point I made, one moment I sort of had where I sort of came to this realization that when I usually am in a conversation with somebody, I'm not actually ever usually present. And so I sort of realized that what I need to make sure that I'm doing is to only have one conversation at a time, and to make sure that I do not sort of scatter my brain. I find that when I talk to people, I'm not usually present with that person, and I can't really have a conversation with them and get what I want or what I needed to really say, to make sure that I actually got what I needed to get through that interaction or that conversation. I'm where I should be earlier, and I find that I'm constantly behind. So what I mean by that is I'm usually playing catch up with myself. So this thought came to me when I was at work, and my head was focused on one task, and then I had to talk to somebody about an issue or matter, and like my head wasn't there yet. I was so focused on this one bit of work that by the time when I was asked to sort of talk to this person about this matter, I didn't really know what to say. I kind of froze, and it was really awkward. And I remember I ended up getting what I needed to say across to an extent. But I remember that after that moment, I wrote down this point that it's like, I need to only make sure that when I'm having a conversation, I'm in the moment, I'm present with that person, I'm present and actually saying the things that I need to say, as opposed to being where I previously was. I find that I end up usually sort of keeping and carrying a lot of baggage from previous conversations, and I usually bring that with me to the next one. Not so much that it's sort of like emotional baggage or anything like that, but it's sort of like I realize after I've had that conversation that I know what I wanted to say, and I sort of hold on to that as opposed to letting it go. Because before that, I was carrying the baggage from the previous conversation where I should have got something across that I didn't, and I hold on to that. It sort of becomes a bit of a crutch for me. So I need to make sure that I do move ahead, and I sort of stop holding on and keeping a hold of that, in a sense, I guess, unnecessary conversational baggage. I find that when I'm switched on to a task, I find it hard to communicate and keep up with changes in the conversation. And I sometimes find this actually when I am out in public with other people, or when I'm with sort of family and friends. It often feels like when I need things to slow down a little to catch up in a conversation, I find that things usually move up at a faster speed, that they actually end up faster than I really would like them to be. I usually find as well that with some family, and especially with some friends, that everyone is so tempted to speak up that we often cut each other off. I find that I actually do that myself a little bit, because other people do it to me. Like if I'm talking to somebody and they want to get a message across, and I kind of know part of what they're trying to say, or there's like a word that they're trying to find, and I sort of say it immediately, because at least that gives me some sort of satisfaction in that conversation. But we end up doing that to each other, and it's quite unsustainable. And the thing that I need to realize, and part of the issue with that, is that if I want to be heard, I should intend to listen just as well as I intend to be heard. People will treat you in proportion to how you treat yourself. And I find that if I'm not actually giving somebody the time to speak, why would they give me the time to speak? If I'm expecting somebody to get across something to me as in the quickest, fastest way as soon as possible, and that's sort of my expectation of how a conversation should be, if that's how I believe an interaction should be, then why would I expect that they would reasonably give me time to get my message across? When usually most people are actually not terrible people, and they would actually give you the time to actually get your message across if you give yourself that time yourself. I don't intend to waste someone's time when I speak, so I need to ensure my words are heard for their benefit. I need to expect to be heard. If you aren't wasting their time with your speech, with what you're trying to say, ensure you are collected when you speak and that you have their utmost attention. I need to make sure that if I am really trying to say something appropriate or smart or wise, if I'm trying to have a conversation with somebody, no matter whether I'm talking to somebody at work about a work matter, or I'm with family and friends just having a conversation about whatever we're talking about, I need to make sure that I'm able to actually be a part of the conversation by adding value to it and acknowledging other people's value to that conversation as well, that we keep adding on to it, rather than it sort of being this pissing contest of how much can we sort of load onto that conversation as it individually, as opposed to not have that mentality over going, how can we bring things collectively together and make this, great large sum from everything we combined to this conversation, even if it's going to end up just being something that we forget about in a day or two's time after we've sort of gone our separate ways. And by the time we come back and see each other, we got a whole different set of topics and things we want to talk about, and then we just keep doing the same thing. You rinse and repeat. If I do not believe I'm being heard, I need to make that clear so that I am. And if my colleagues, family and friends do not wish to listen to me, I should find better people to be around. And that sort of goes back to one of the sort of comments I made a little bit earlier in this sort of recording, that if I'm not trying to waste somebody's time, why wouldn't they listen to me? That if I am also not giving somebody else time, why would I believe they would give me time themselves? It is only because I'm focused on keeping up with others that I do not convey the messages that I should, or that I know that I could. If my message is important, I should trust that it needs to be heard. And that's also something that I think I brought up a little bit a few times in a few of my previous videos, where I talked about needing to make sure that I am not so much putting myself first, I should, but I am focused on ensuring that I know that what I have to say has merit, that what I'm doing actually is not unreasonable. I need to make sure that I stop trusting other people's judgments more than I do my own. I need to make sure that I take a breath before I speak, to collect my thoughts, and then be clear and true with what it is I'm trying to say. Be transparent and open and honest, and really be myself with what I am saying. And that's probably part of the thing. I might actually make tomorrow's video about this, where I talk about because one of the thoughts that I did have over the last few weeks was sort of realizing that I think part of the reason why there are times where I feel uncomfortable when I am with other people is because I don't feel like I can really sort of be myself, which is just ridiculous. Like, why have I been telling myself this? And when it comes to ensuring that I am getting my message across, and when it is I'm speaking to people, and ensuring that I'm not holding on to things that I could have said before, that completely mess up what it is I'm trying to say right now is because I'm holding on to this validation that I am able to make sound judgments. And it's actually, ironically, making it hard for me to actually do that in the end. If I do intend to be clear and true and transparent and open and honest and genuine with what I am saying, only a fool would dislike and dissuade that type of messaging. And if you're stuck speaking to fools, the thing that I need to understand is that it's not about you. That is their problem, not yours. If they are unable, if they're unwilling, if they're unreasonable to wanting to actually make sure that they are actually trying to listen to sound judgment and reason, well then, that's sort of not my problem. I can only do so much to help a person. Be mindful of who you are speaking to, because their behavior while you do says all the more about them than it does about you. All the more about them than about what you are actually saying. So, unless you intend to spew rubbish, waste other people's time, ensure your thoughts are caught up with your intentions before having a good time either talking to somebody, having a really nice conversation about whatever it is you're talking about, or delivering a message that will make work or your life or somebody else's life a lot easier and better. So that's today's video. Yeah, alright. I'll go and edit this now, and then I will see you tomorrow.